So, you've come home. After all this time. Into the darkness.
Hello, Mother.
You are naughty not to have called first. You know how I value my privacy and don't like to be disturbed.
A trait we share.
Are you hungry? Would you like some wine? I am being the most ungracious host here. Tell me of your siblings. The only one I ever see is Destiny. He comes and he talks. And the little one?
Delirium.
Yes, I see her skulking around here sometimes. She's changed, though. I'm not entirely sure what she wants from me.
She wants what she's always wanted. Your attention. Your interest. Your love. I saw Father.
Did you? And how's he doing?
He misses you.
Sweet child. Do you think that if you reintroduce me to your father, we'll come together in one glowing union, and everything that's wrong will be healed? That together we will rewrite the laws of the universe and save you from the kindly ones?
I assure you that was not my intention in coming here. And is that even possible?
You really have no idea what you're doing, do you? Oh, you poor thing. I tell you what. Why not let Mother make it all better? What if I were to make you a perfect little dream world? Here. With a partner. A relationship. You've always wanted one of those. And you'd be safe here. And close to me. You could see me whenever you like. When I'm not working. There. That's my offer, darling. It's not like you've left yourself a way out.
I must, with respect, decline.
You would rather be hounded to death by the kindly ones than live here with me.
No. I have my realm. My responsibilities.
You've always been selfish. Even when you were a child. Everything had to be your way or no way at all. The rest of us didn't exist to you except as a means to an end. Well, now you have your end. And I leave you to it.
Forgive me. I meant no disrespect. I was merely trying to be the person I thought you wanted me to be.
Of course. It's always the parents' fault. Well, if it gives you comfort to blame me for the way you are, or way you turned out, you are welcome to it, my love. It will be my farewell gift to you.
I don't blame you, Mother.
Oh, I'm glad, darling. It's much nicer that we end as friends. Oh, and if you see your father, tell him I said.
So this is a snippet from the Netflix series The Sandman. And the Sandman is Dream. And he is meeting his mother, who is Mother Night, or the Darkness. And his father is Father Time. And I'll make a longer video, more in-depth video, because there's so many points that I want to hit and awareness that I want to bring. And I'll be uploading that in the next couple of days onto my Patreon. So join Patreon if you're not a member. But he goes to meet his mother after some time, and his mother is the Darkness. His father is Time. So when we think of the word mother as humans, we're but a morsel of creation, right? But everything that is creation permeates through us, which is why it's so important that we tap into our higher selves and get in alignment. But we've been conditioned as mere humans to see mother as someone who births children, when it's so much greater than that. All of creation come from the void. All of creation is formed in darkness. Mother is the darkness. And don't let it get lost on you that she's represented as a Black woman. It's very primitive to believe as humans that your reason for existing is to procreate. And then we hyper focus on having babies, 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 instead of being a creator. Mother is the creator of all. And I love this representation of Mother Night or darkness because she's nothing. The darkness is nothing and everything. And nothing exists without her. And everything exists because of her. And I'll go into more details on Patreon about like the dynamics and the portrayal and the language and the energy of the conversations that the Father Time and Mother Darkness, Mother Night has. But the biggest thing I want women to understand is to be a mother is not to just simply birth babies, right? You are so much more vast than that. You are so much more, you have more depth and more range, and you can create anything. Anything you want to create can be your babies, can be your children, will be your creation. And their conversation really highlighted a lot in terms of the detachment from mother and child and how those sorts of dynamics play in when we're talking about the creator. See, because the vision and the definition of mother as most humans recognize it is simply somebody with a uterus that can have a baby, right? And somebody who is a breeder. When you have everything and nothing in your hands, right? You're the creator of everything. And she's the between the children of Mother Night and Father Time are called the endless, which is dream, death, destiny, delirium, destruction, desire, all of these endless, infinite things. Even though we're but a tiny morsel in creation, in the universe, we have access to all of that information. We have certainly have access to more than we've been privy to, more than we've been conditioned to believe. So do not let people teach you that your purpose is to have babies. That is extremely primitive and is beneath you. And for God's sake, for God's sake, please stop letting your children, male and female, believe that their purpose is to procreate. You are so much bigger and better and more vast than that. And even in this, and I'll go into this more in my Patreon, but even in this, right? Mother, the creator, is the void that everything comes from, including time. That's supposed to be Lucy, the first woman.
Hey, where is she?
So this is a snippet from the movie Lucy that came out in like 2013. So if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it. And continuing the conversation about mother darkness, creation, the void, everything is nothing. Notice she said, where is she? Where is she? She's everywhere, right? She's everything. She's nothing at all. So just to sum it up, Lucy is a movie about a young woman who's traveling. I think she was in Taiwan, and she ended up getting wrangled by this man that she knows into transporting a synthetic drug called CPH4. And CPH4 is something that pregnant women create for babies in order for babies to have the energy to develop, basically. And all of this stems back to men, down to the fact that the people in this movie, or the people who thought of this movie or whatever, but particularly in the movie, the masculine is always competing with the feminine. That jealousy that we mentioned of your ability to create, that you are the creator. And again, this is not to be the antithesis of men. This is to show women who you are, the power that you contain, the things that you have access to, but we sit around and play stupid games with lesser beings. So they created a synthetic version of CPH4, and they was transporting it through their abdomen, and of course a violent man kicked her, and then it bust open the bag, and then it went into her bloodstream in larger quantities. And so ultimately she kind of immediately knows that she's gonna, like, this is gonna take her out of here. But we're talking about a synthetic drug that is supposed to mimic what women create when you portal an infant here for them to be able to develop bones and develop structure to be a actual human. So transferring that energy, the thing that it takes to transfer that energy from the ether, from a soul, a spirit, to a physical human body. Magic. This is one of my favorite movies. I watched this movie over and over and over. And take note to the things that happen, because basically in that snippet, this is when she went from, to 100% of her brain's cerebral capacity, right? And as the drugs are taking effect and she's consuming it more and more, is entering her bloodstream, she starts to turn black, right? Back to black. And then she starts to play with time. She starts to go back in time all the way back to the first atom. So when they showed like the molecules being divided and then basically going back into one, that is the first atom that started creation. And that was within her, and she was exposed to it due to the large quantities of this synthetic drug. And the name of the movie is called Lucy, right? Lucy is the first woman. And we all know Lucy is a black woman. And although the actress that plays this character is white, what does she transform into? Darkness. She goes back into the place from whence she came, and she disappears into the ether, right? But she has the ability to connect. And so when the cop is like saying, "Where is she?" she taps into his phone and says, "I'm everywhere." So like in my conversation involving the Sandman and Mother Darkness and all of that, it is the same concept. And they put these things in all of these movies. And they tell you who you are. They tell you the universal knowledge that you have access to, but you have to want to tap into it. Now, I don't believe it's but so much you can tap into being an actual human, because you see what happens when she get there. You will essentially disappear. But I'll talk more about this on my Patreon, of course, because there's so much that I want to say about this movie and so many different aspects and how it plays out in our regular human lives. So when women pretend that life is happening to them, there is a knowing. When she started playing with time and she started pausing time and going back, she just knew she could do it. She had never experienced that. This is the same knowing, intuition that women have. And y'all want to tell me these men are master manipulators? Oh no, boo.
For primitive beings like us, life seems to have only one single purpose: gaining time. And it is going through time seems to be also the only real purpose of each of the cells in our bodies. To achieve that aim, the mass of the cells that make up earthworms and human beings has only two solutions: be immortal or to reproduce. If its habitat is not sufficiently favorable or nurturing, the cell will choose immortality. In other words, self-sufficiency and self-management. On the other hand, if the habitat is favorable, they will choose to reproduce. That way, when they die, they hand down essential information and knowledge to the next cell, which hands it down to the next cell, and so on. Thus, knowledge and learning are handed down through time.
So this is a snippet from the Lucy movie as well. And in this snippet, Morgan Freeman's character is a professor who studies the brain. And has spent most of his life studying the brain. And so he was given a lecture on the amount of capacity that, what will happen when we use a certain amount of capacity of our brain. And humans, as we know it, use about 10%. And so, of course, now he was dipping into the realm of philosophy about our purpose and all of that. And he said humans' main purpose is gaining time. Now, y'all remember the conversation from the Sandman about Mother Darkness and Father Time? Time is very finite, right? It's constricting, much like the masculine. So it's no wonder that, time is represented by a male figure. But that's a slightly different conversation. So he's talking about immortality, and basically the cells, what we down to a cellular level will choose in terms of survival. And the two options is immortality or reproduction. And so he mentioned when things are unfavorable, you will choose immortality. And when the environment is favorable, you would choose to reproduce, meaning passing on your knowledge and learning to develop and grow. So this is a reflection of what's happening with the shift in consciousness that we are all experiencing now, right? We often think of immortality as simply as living forever, right? But there's different concepts of immortality, and one of the conceptualized versions of immortality is that your work lives on, your name lives on, not rather than a physical person that you produced, but that your energy lives on, and the things that you put on earth, sort of like a memory, I suppose, but maybe on a larger scale. And so essentially what he's saying is that when you choose immortality, you choose to self-sustain, right? Which is what many of us are realizing is our only option at this point, right? Because the environment that we live in is not conducive for reproducing, it's not conducive for life. So naturally, things are going to happen naturally. And so the elites and man are fighting against nature, right? They're fighting, and part of fighting against nature is fighting against the feminine. But they're fighting against what naturally and biologically occurs, which ultimately they'll never win. They'll only win for a certain amount of time. Because one thing the earth that is also feminine will do is course correct. Whenever she gets ready, she'll spit us all out, this motherfucker, so that she can heal herself, right? That's immortality. The choice to self-sustain, the choice to self-master is immortality. Instead of reproducing, and if you really think about it, this is part of the reason why oftentimes parents experience a tinge of jealousy towards their children, right? Without even realizing that's what it was, because the idea of reproducing is to reproduce in favorable environments so that you can pass on learning. But when you are struggling, when your environment is so horrible and conducive, and only thing you can think about is keeping your head above water and paying bills and struggling day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, right? You start to stray away from natural order, which means you're straying away from a conducive environment to birth and raise children, right? And so then comes the lower vibration problems like jealousy and envy and all of these sorts of things that we are experiencing now, where, parents won't call it jealousy, but when I hear parents say things like my broke best friend, or look at the baby sitting there with their legs crossed like they pay bills, that is jealousy, right? It's not jealousy that's gonna cause them to harm them necessarily, but that very statement means that you are in an environment that is not conducive, but you're continuing to reproduce instead of choosing immortality. When you choose yourself, you choose immortality. Because ideally, when you choose to reproduce, the idea is to pass on your knowledge, meaning you're sacrificing, you're giving up something for yourself, but it should be in a way that is not so sacrificial, right? Ideally, you expect your children to be better than you. You expect you pass on through lineages, through bloodlines, and this is on a physical sense, not a spiritual sense, but also, and you pass information on through DNA. What are we passing on, right? What are the epigenetics that we're passing on to our children before they even get here? And this is the importance of choosing immortality, not choosing to continue to have children. You're passing on trauma. You're passing on lies. You're passing on generations of being under spells. This is not a conducive environment. And we have all of these problems because the environment is not conducive. And naturally, intelligent beings, the ability for your cells to decide that it is not favorable to have children or to reproduce is intellect, right? So if you are still choosing to have children in this environment, you can barely pay your bills, you don't want to work, you don't like where you exist, you're stressed out, it is unfavorable and it lacks intellect. Bottom line. Absolutely. And until women are ready to admit this, women will always be cooked. Women will always be complaining about being victims of men. And the only way women can remove the spell of victimhood from themselves and see themselves for exactly who they are is by learning who you are as a woman. Learning her story of who you are instead of his story, which is the male lens through which we view previous and past events. Everything we consume is pretty much through the lens of the male's purview. We allow that to happen. We create everything. You are not the creator and then don't assume responsibility for your creation, period. And the only way women will snap out of this is by learning who we are, by self-mastery, learning the true history of where we come from and who we are, and put away the nonsense stories that the patriarchal lens has us seeing through constantly. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. But that would take too much accountability. And the bottom line is, those of us who are about this awakening life, who live it, who breathe it, we have to understand that a lot of women like being subjugated. They like having someone to blame because it removes responsibility and accountability. And when women figure out who we are, you will not have the room to blame men. Men will become so irrelevant that you would barely even want them. Decentering men is only the beginning.